All right, so let's talk Z's today, shall we? Not the kind of Z's that I need, as in sleep, but Z's as in Nikon Z mount cameras. So I shoot with Z5 as a backup, Z6, and my main studio camera is my Z7. All right. So why all these Z's, you might ask? Well, and full disclosure, for a while I shot the Z30 for my personal camera and vlogging. And this camera, as you see, is in its box because I'm selling it. I don't want a crop sensor camera anymore. I'm kind of spoiled now that all three of my main cameras are FX format, full frame, so I don't want to worry about having to get a DX formatted lens. It's a whole thing. And I guess I'm kind of OCD in that. Yes, I know I can use the full frame lenses just fine on the Z30, and it's a great little camera. It's really fun. I enjoyed shooting with it, even though it didn't have a viewfinder, but it just really, for work, doesn't fit into my gear. So it's going to go bye-bye. We're not going to miss it, though, because we've got plenty of camera gear here to work with. Another thing that's recently happened, too, with these cameras is Nikon's coming out with some pretty decent lenses that are fairly inexpensive. I went to Chattanooga, Tennessee recently, and I challenged myself to walk around with one camera and one lens. So I walked around with the Z5 and the 28mm 2.8. And I gotta say, even though, as you can see, there's a tiny little lens, and it's not weather sealed, I know, but it was like $279. And I gotta say, I can't complain about it. So, difference between the Z's. Megapixels, number one. So, the Z5 and Z6 have pretty much the same sensor, but I think the Z6 is like backlit. This one, the Z6, way better in low light than the Z5. Z7, of course, is 48 megapixels. This is the big dog when it comes to my needing detail in the studio, or I know I'm going to need to crop something and not worry about it. Low light, not so great. Here's the thing, though. When we're talking about the Z7 not being as good, or the Z5 not being as good as the Z6 in low light, that's getting really picky, guys. These cameras, all three of these cameras, are killer. Now, I know what you're saying. What about the ZF or the Z8 or the Z9? Not in my budget. And so, yeah, not messing with those cameras right now. I really think that we've gotten, I'm just going to say it, man, we've gotten spoiled because the camera gear that has come out is so good. When I look back at what I was shooting with 10 years ago, and then I look at what I'm shooting with today, I'll be honest with you, I'm shocked that we were able to get some of the images we were able to get in the situations we were in. Is that saying that all the cameras that came out before these are bad? No, not at all. But going from the DSLR to mirrorless, for me personally, changed one thing that really helped me, and that's the autofocus system. The autofocus system is so much better in these new cameras. And I'm practically blind, so it helps me a lot to have an autofocus system I can trust, especially with the when it comes to eye tracking. Used to, I would have to fine tune. You guys remember the days of fine tuning lenses? I've not had to do that anymore. Tune my lens to each camera body. I used to have to do that with my D700. I would really have to tune that autofocus. And I know there were better bodies. There was, D5s and D4s and D6. But once again, not in my budget. The D700 fell right in there for me. And I had like 6 of those D700s at one point. we were shooting a lot of weddings. And I live in the South. It's very hot, very humid. So sometimes I would have gear inside the air conditioning and gear stashed outside in the warm. So when I would move through, I didn't fog up. Anyway, going back, another thing that I noticed about Z5, the Z5 is heavier than the Z6, which is weird to me. I don't know why it is. If you know why, leave it in the comments. It's interesting to me. Z6 has the little, the little LCD screen on the top. Z5 does not. I like the little LCD screen. I really like to be able to glance down and know where my camera settings are. That's really neat. Of course, the Z7 has the LCD screen on the top. The Z7, one of the things that I've noticed about it in shooting, it feels like to me that this is the one camera that I really wish had a second slot. And of all cameras, that's the Z6. I can't even tell them apart. The Z5 actually has a dual card slot. I don't know how this makes sense that the least expensive camera sitting here in front of me is actually the one with the dual card slot. And it never fails. Someone calls me while I'm making a video. That's it. It almost always happens. But yeah, that's confusing to me. Now, have I needed a dual card slot? No, nothing's ever happened, luckily, knock on wood, where I've needed that dual card slot, where I've had a card failure or something like that. Not to say that can't happen. Another thing that I've noticed, the battery life between these three cameras is pretty similar. Very, very similar. And I know that was a big thing going from DSLR to mirrorless, was we were worried about battery life. But honestly, I can shoot all day long. I did. I walked for miles in New York, shot literally thousands of photos. And I think I maybe used 2 batteries all day. I mean, I think they do great. Now, which one of these cameras could I not live without? Okay, we're going to go ahead and ask the question. If I had to choose one of my Zs, which one would it be? I'm going to tell you, hands down, it's my Z6. To me, there's something about the color of the Z6. The low light is phenomenal. And with Photoshop and other programs now that can enlarge so much better, if I need more detail than 24, if you watch my other video where I talk about is 12 megapixels enough, I just really find myself gravitating back to this Z6 every single time. I don't know why. It's just, there's something about it. And I get that way. I get like emotionally attached to cameras. That's why if you see me selling one, it's very rare, because I really get to the point to where the camera has really become sort of an extension of me. Now, the lenses. All the lenses to me have this sameness throughout them. I don't know how else to explain it. They feel and look very much like each other. Whereas used to, when we would buy different lenses, especially in third-party range, they would have a different character or quality. And I'm noticing, especially in the Nikkor line of lenses, even the inexpensive, like this 40 millimeter f2, has a very similar color and contrast and sharpness to me as the 28 to 2.8. Here's the thing though, and of course they're not the same angle, I get that, but I really, this little cheap 2.8 lens for a walk around street lens, I loved it. Do I wish it was 24? Yeah, I'm weird. 20. It's amazing how much 4 millimeters makes a difference to me. I don't know why, but still, though, I was very, very pleased with it. Walking around on the Z5. And the Z5, when you got plenty of light, is phenomenal. Now, in low light, of course, I use Lightroom. So the new denoise button in Lightroom will make this camera look amazing. Anyway, that's a whole nother video. Comparing the Z's, Z6 is your low light monster. Z5 is your, I don't want to break the bank, but I want a killer Z full frame camera. Great camera. Z7 is your landscape, portrait, needing to crop, whatever. I need all the detail in the world. And low light, still going to be decent. I know it's not as good, but man, we're getting picky. These cameras are all killer compared to what was coming out back in the day. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for liking and subscribing and all that kind of stuff, and for commenting. Which gear do you shoot with? I didn't always shoot Nikon. What do you guys like shooting with? What's your go-to camera? What's your one camera that you have to have with you? Let me know. Looking forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you on the next one.